All right, friends, welcome to another episode of Healedish. And today I have such an exciting guest. She has lived quite a life. She went to Teen Mania, did Campus Crusade. Is that what it's called? Campus
Crusade for Christ.
Yeah, Campus Crusade for Christ. And yeah, just has a lot of stories and I can't wait to jump in. So thank you so much, Emily, for agreeing to come on.
Yeah, thanks, Jubilee. I really enjoyed your podcast. It's been so healing for me and my husband, both of us. So he was also like, tell her she's awesome. She's my hero.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I know you said your husband has some crazy stories. So if you ever want to go on tangents, you feel free because, man, it sounds like both of you just had very different experiences, but have both been through it. So could you just get us started with what your childhood was like? Were you raised up in the religious system that you ended up being in?
So no, I wasn't raised religious. My grandma or my great-grandma was Catholic. So like the youngest memories I have of church is like my great-grandma taking me around. And I just remember it feeling very peaceful and feeling like, I always kind of grew up feeling like a spiritual person, believing in God and like having this desire for something bigger than myself. But my family was not religious. My family, I'd say my mom even was like hurt by the church quite a bit. So I didn't grow up with it. But yeah, my parents like had a really bad divorce when I was 5. And there was just a lot of issues and home life was quite hard. And so when I was older, I just remember seeing like all the Christians and they were the happy ones that had it all together and just seemed like, oh, that's like, especially with society, if you're a good person. And I always wanted to be the good person and always wanted to like be the peacemaker and very much people pleaser and wanting to help people. So I was like, oh, that's like, those are the good ones. And so no, my family was not, but I kind of
ended up finding this joyous thing on your own.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that because that's kind of similar to my best friend Mackenzie's story where her home life was, or for her, it was a bit rougher. And to her, when she went to church, she just felt very welcomed and it seemed like they had it all together and she really was striving for that. So it seemed very attractive being on the outside of it.
Yeah, that was exactly it. And this like you keep hearing like, oh, you're just unconditionally loved. And it's like this community of people who just accept you the way that you are. And they're passionate about helping, following Jesus, who's all about supporting the marginalized and oppressed. And so it just seemed like, oh, this healthy, stable place where I just find community and find, maybe some healing from all the things. But so I started in high school. I went to youth group with one of my friends, and when I went to youth group with her, I remember I was so confused because they were talking all about there's like Jesus and there's a God, but Jesus is God, but then there's like this spirit, and I remember being so confused and then just like praying and trying to be like, I'm so confused, but I don't want to act like the one who doesn't know what's going on. And I just felt like this peace. I felt like I experienced like in that moment, I really felt like I experienced just like God telling me that it's okay and that it's all one and the same, basically. And so that's when I first had my own personal experience where I was like, wow, I'm connected to this personally. And I feel like this is, what's right for me. I also, when I was younger, because I was like so interested in church and wanting to be like my grandma, I also went to like my neighbor. I used to ride horses and she's Mormon. And so I went to a Mormon church as well. But that was a little too wild for me, I must say.
What was that like?
Yeah, I think her church was quite conservative because I remember wearing like a dress and everything, had to be covered. But my like ankles were showing and people would look at me and like, I think I was like very young and I just felt like I wasn't like, and my dress was really colorful. I don't know. It was just like, I felt so kind of stared at. And I felt when I was young and I already was like, oh, yeah, I don't feel like I fit in here. And I feel like it's a little too much for me. But yeah.
What sector was the church that you went to where you felt a lot of peace? What denomination was that?
They would say non-denominational. So it's like evangelical. Now that I know, like non-denominational is,
it is, right?
Fundamentalism, evangelicalism. So yeah, that's like, and that's kind of what I stayed in. Yeah.
What did your family think when you were getting into this? Because obviously you said your mom had some bad experiences in the church. Was she concerned at all? Or was it kind of like, oh, well, it didn't work out for me, but you can do whatever you want?
Not when I was in high school, because I wasn't really involved. I just had a friend, and she's actually really lovely. And so I would just go with her because her dad was a pastor. And so I'd go with her once in a while. And then I kind of, we stopped hanging out because we stopped being in classes, and I ended up not really going anymore for the rest of high school. I had other friends who were Christian, and so it was always like, oh yeah, I connect with that too. But still wasn't, really involved with it. But I think it was still this desire because home life just also became a lot harder. My family's very, very complicated. And so high school got like really difficult. So even then, more so, I think was this desire like, oh, I want something healthier.
Something to ground you.
Yeah, exactly.
So when do you feel like the switch came between you just kind of being this casual Christian who had this desire inside of you to when you became all in on this?
Yeah. So after I graduated from high school, I ended up being assaulted by a guy. And
so sorry.
Thanks. It was after that, I just felt so like broken and just felt like, oh, like all I kind of knew from the Christian part of me, or that I loved, is like, oh, now I'm like not this pure person. This is like all like, this is what I had, and that was stolen from me. And and so I think I just had a lot of, I started feeling very depressed. And then I went to my university. So this happened in the summer before I went to university. And at my university, I just was having, it was just really hard, and I was quite sad. And one of my best friends from high school, she went to the same university as me, and she was like, oh, my mom, because she had gotten in a lot of trouble in her high school, and so before she moved to ours, and so her mom's like, I'm connecting you with this group, go there. And so I was like, oh, I need something, can I go with you? And I went with her to this group. And so that's kind of how I first started going to the group. In the beginning, I was still kind of like just trying to do the college thing, but then I also felt like my foot was in both worlds, because Cru is also, Campus Crusade for Christ is also very, it's quite kind of conservative. They wouldn't say that, but and so I ended up going on a fall retreat for them. With them.
So what is Campus Crusades for Christ? Because I've heard of it a lot, but I don't know that anybody's actually explained to me what they do or what the point is.
Oh yeah, I should have looked up their like mission. They're basically for them, it's all about evangelizing on campuses. So I think their like mission is that like someone will always know someone who truly follows Jesus. And so for them, it's like they'll be in different countries. They'll be in also really low income countries, but they'll focus on going to universities and trying to convert university students, because those are the future leaders. So
interesting. Yeah.
So, and also on campus, they're also very much about, just for people to become Christians. So it's all about evangelizing, basically.
Do you think that most colleges or universities have this group? Because it sounds like they're okay. Yeah. I was like, it sounds like it's something that every college would have, where they're trying to just make the group grow and grow. Like you said, the idea is that they at least know somebody who is really on fire for God.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so when you go to, it's like really, really fun, and they have like all the like attractive people are the ones also, you know, with the microphones up there,
the cool
and like
kids.
The leaders, all the cool kids, exactly. And it's just kind of like, you could be cool and follow Jesus too type thing. You can have fun and party in college, but you could do it in a sober way type. That's kind of what they wanted to do, because, you know, it was also a huge party university. And so they wanted, you know, to like, for people to have a fun alternative, which actually, that was for a part of it, because my family, there's a lot of like addictions and alcoholism. And so for me, I'm like, oh, you could still have fun and, you know, not be part of it and be part of a great community and have a blast in college. To me, it was actually like, I found that really amazing.
Yeah, and you had built-in friends through that.
Yeah, exactly. And so I went to there. They call it a fall retreat, and so they have always every fall where people go and they stay for, I think, 2 nights. And it's a big retreat, and they have someone that speaks. And so we get there and you play a bunch of fun games. It's awesome. This is how they do it. I think this is like how a lot of evangelical churches and ministries kind of reel you in. But it was, you know, you do really fun games, icebreakers, you get to know people, you talk about how exciting it's gonna be, there's an MC, good music, everything, and then someone shares their story that's like incredibly personal and vulnerable, and then everyone's in tears. And for me, the story that was told was a woman who was like partying at the university, and then she passed out and got raped. And then she afterwards woke up and felt like she had no value. She was so like depressed and miserable, and her roommate was Christian and invited her to Crew. And then she found out like you are forgiven and Jesus loves you, and you know, and so
forgiven
like
for
he
being
sees
assaulted,
you.
or
That's the vibe, at least. I don't remember it exactly, but that's kind of like, and you are once you become a Christian, you're seen as like pure and beautiful, and you're, you know, redeemed in God's eyes. And so for me, I was just like, oh, I could be healed and still be seen that I have worth, and I can still be, you know, loved, and I'm not like this, you know, I'm still loved by God if I just say the prayer they tell me to pray, even though I do feel like I'd already experienced God and had faith. But if I do it the way they do it, then I'm truly going to be healed and cleansed, and they tell you exactly, you know, to go up and to pray. And so that moment I did, and it was just like, and so for me, it was kind of like this 180, like, okay, now I'm kind of all about it. But yeah, now I look back and I'm just like, for getting her up there, and they love that, and they love to use my story too. It was from this like broken family, and then she, you know, found Jesus, and now look at the life she's living. And so and thinking about like, instead of this woman being told like, no, you are not broken, this happened to you, and you have always been seen as wonderful and beautiful, there's nothing wrong with you. And that, you know, no therapist, no support in that way, but it's like, you were broken and now you're put together again.
Because while they may not be saying that she sinned by getting assaulted, they're not necessarily saying that, but they are reiterating the idea that she's not clean.
Yes.
And that she needs to be made right in Jesus. So it's very much victim blaming. And I think it doesn't get talked about enough how detrimental purity culture is for people who have been sexually assaulted.
Yes.
Because, I always get comments like that where people say, well, what's so wrong about trying to save yourself for marriage? And there's absolutely nothing wrong if people want to wait until they get married. That's not the point. But when we tell people that their worth goes down every time they're intimate with somebody, you're not explaining to kids if that means when they're assaulted or not. So they could be sitting there 13 years old in church and feeling like they have no worth because of something that was completely outside of their control, you know? So it can make this idea of getting saved again or having that fresh start very attractive because you're desperately wanting something to heal you. And I find it interesting, you were already a Christian, but it kind of felt like you had this expectation of like, oh, but it's going to be different this time. Like, I'm really going to get a new level of healing and God's really like going to fix this inside of me. And I think that that's absolutely what happened with me too, with the Heidi Baker conference. It's like, I had been a Christian my entire life, but there was this level of expectation in this conference setting where emotions are really high that somehow all of this trauma was just going to be made right. Without actually like going to therapy or really trying to like work through what you had experienced.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it was also like this idea of just, I wasn't kind of doing it right because my heart, I wasn't full on for Jesus. I wasn't, all in. I wasn't. And they kind of have that narrative as well. It's like there's a difference from, being like a Sunday Christian or being all out for Jesus. And that's because also this like on fire passion to really go to all the nations to convert. And that's how it was for me too. I had shared my story. I'd never been encouraged to get counseling. I'd never been told you realize you didn't do anything wrong, right? Like it wasn't. And I did through like one of the projects that I went on, there was a mentor and she said that to me, and that was really helpful because she'd experienced the same thing. But I feel like, with purity culture, it's so much of this, I'm the bad, I'm the dirty one, women, I should have been, if I had maybe been all out for Jesus, something like this wouldn't have happened to me. But then God,
if I hadn't put myself in that situation, it's the things that they're not saying. Is that she probably had to repent for. At least putting herself in that situation.
Exactly. And the way that women are supposed to be and carry themselves, and like you said, with purity culture being so toxic, it's already implying that, it's women, and it's already, there was a lot of like, if you were really involved in, in passion for Jesus, you don't wear a two-piece bathing suit. It is that type of thing. You wear, we're at university, and you wear shorts that go just above the knee because you are a woman of God. Like it's doing that already, and you hear all the guys talking about, seeing women in yoga pants, and it's just so hard for men because women are walking around like that and they don't know what they're doing, and it's just so harmful when you see sisters in Christ who would wear yoga pants. I'm not kidding. I heard stuff.
No, I believe you. And what's so crazy, is my husband was raised Catholic and he has zero religious trauma because his church he was very much like a Sunday Catholic, and it was fine and it was good. But when I talked to him about purity culture and the leggings, and they act like we're just stumbling all over the place, he's so confused because he's like, I never was I ever feeling like I was stumbling or messing up just by looking at a girl in a tank top. Like I wasn't sexualizing girls like that. And I think somebody was telling me recently that their husband had just so much guilt for even thinking that a girl was pretty. So part of me wonders, are they really like stumbling, or is it they see a girl in leggings and they think she's pretty and that's like super sinful, because purity culture makes the stakes so high on everything.
Yes, it's so true. And even in like with a marriage too, it's kind of like, if you see an ad and a woman's in lingerie and then the guy looks at it and then it's like, you're cheating with your eyes. And it like, that's kind of the mindset, and that's what you're told. And it's like, oh, I'm such a horrible person, instead of being like, yeah, bodies are normal. You find bodies attractive. That's normal. Get on with it. We choose each other, and that's, yeah.
Some people were told to avoid Victoria's Secret, or like avoid the mall in general, just because the ads that you might possibly walk by when you're at the mall. It's very interesting, because like you were saying, it goes back to that idea of, well, if you were really serious, if you were really all in for Christ, you would be doing X, Y, and Z. And then it becomes kind of like a competition, especially when you're in the environment that you were, and like Bethel, where you're around so many people who are all trying to be the most sold out for God. And it can get a little competitive with like, how far are we going to take this,
Yes. And I think a big part of it too is ultimately like finding, they emphasize so much on like, at least, I know it differentiates depending on the campus, but for mine, it was so much about like, oh, when you find your partner. And the men had even said like, a woman's job is basically to get married and to have kids. And for me already growing up, and I'm really grateful, my mom is like a very much a feminist, and taught me at a young age of like, no, you can be whatever you want to be. And like a lot of these things that is kind of like were a base for me, which is why I felt so much internal conflict, is because I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This isn't how I was raised by my mom, at least, so yeah, definitely. But I have, with the purity culture too, I'll have to come back to it, because I want to mention when we talk about like missions, about this as well, in a recent book that I read, which hits on that so much as well. So
oh my gosh, can't wait. Yeah. So your school was in Chico, and I know that you said you used to visit Bethel. So when did that happen? And when did you start to not necessarily like jump into the charismatic sector, but what was your first introduction to it?
Yeah, so that's pretty wild. So first, I'll like jump back a little bit. So I got really involved in Campus Crusade for Christ. And I ended up going on a summer mission trip with them, but that was to like Santa Monica. And they basically, it's like, oh yeah, everyone's doing it. It's the best thing in the world. And you raise tons of money to like go, and you're going to
go to Santa Monica.
To go to Santa Monica. And so it's just kind of like, in my head, I was like, oh, I've always wanted to do a mission trip, because I've always had this deep like passion for like caring about people. My mom also, I really think, instilled that in me as well. She's a social worker, and so it's always like really caring about the vulnerable. I've always had a passion for human rights. And so, so I went on this mission trip, which is basically we were in like a really, really run-down motel in Santa Monica. And
you were staying there?
Yeah, and you're staying there for the summer, and it's basically just like having kind of community groups, like little Bible studies, where you like pour out all your emotions and you get really close, and then you go and evangelize, and you learn to evangelize all over. You do street evangelism, you do, street evangelism I'm thinking about. But I did not, like, I love the people, the community. And I want to say that too, because when I left my last church, somebody was like, well, it's like this thing you always hear, well, the people, it's the people that hurt you. It's not the church. And it's just like, I had so many wonderful friends, or people who had are still my friends, and the community was beautiful, and the people are what helped me, I think, even with a lot of the healing that happened, and with, getting into a better way of life and such. But it's really the institution that is passed down that is so toxic, that is harming innocent and vulnerable people. And so, the people, I loved the people. Still friends with some of them. And I'll say too, one of the difficult things that was there as well is I had a few friends, and it's they struggled with homosexuality, and then they got help or go basically gay conversion, and then they're not gay anymore, and that was a struggle, and that was part of their story, but they're like healed from that. And now it's like after this, like years later, all of them have left evangelicalism, and no one these things are not helpful. They're very harmful and toxic. So that was like,
I experienced that too. On our mission
Yeah.
trip to Norway, I met this guy. He was so nice, and I just remember I spent most of my time there in Norway because, we took a mission trip to Norway. I mean, it was similar to like street evangelism, and we just went and talked at other churches and other ministry schools. But his testimony was that he was gay and that God had changed him, healed him, but he still seemed pretty, like you could just tell that he was not like being honest with himself about who he was, but at the time everybody was saying what a beautiful testimony that God's changed him. And like you said, now a few years after that, now he's left and he's happy and he's gay, so it's like, yes, these things are not things to be healed, but the church to like put those people on stage as the testimony of that.
Yes. And that was one thing too, because that was for me not coming from any of this. And I didn't know, that's the thing, when I came into it, I didn't know people's views on LGBTQ plus people. I didn't know what they said about women. I didn't know all these things. And I was just like, oh, you care about the oppressed and the vulnerable like Jesus, and you're in community together and you all want to work together to create a better world. That's what I thought Christianity and church life was. And so I was like, then when people would say something homophobic, or when they would say something about how it's a sin, I just ask questions like, but isn't a sin getting in the way of, you and God? And I'm confused because I've seen some of the most healthy, beautiful couples I've ever seen have been a gay couple, and some of the most toxic, abusive, harmful, my own parents' marriage is a straight marriage. So I'd ask these questions, and I'd kind of be getting there's nothing better that you can do than to really commit yourself to Jesus, and just listen to people's stories of how God has transformed them, because they know deep down it is a sin. So then they use these stories to be like, see, what are you going to do? Go against somebody's, that's their story, and these are the ones that they, and so then they put that on the pedestal. But it was that, and also with women, and so many things that kept coming up were just things that I was also told, we need to keep unity, and yes, there's different ways that you might feel about something, or people can have different opinions, but for the body of Christ, for unity, what are the things that we do come together on? What are the things we do believe? So it's also felt like a way of being if I speak out on these things that people are saying that are harmful, I'm causing division.
They're definitely bringing you into their way of thinking and their perspective on all of these different issues.
Yes, and then just a lot of gaslighting and manipulating. It's so funny too how you don't realize that there's so much religious trauma until you've left it, and you're like, that's why I shake when someone says, this or that. And so, but anywho, went on the summer project. And
how was street evangelism?
I hated it. I always hated it. And then because
Don't we all?
And because I didn't like it, I felt like a bad Christian. And so you try to make it fun and everything. And to me, I just also, that was another question I had. I was like, okay, you speak so negatively about Mormons and Jehovah's Witness, and it's always making jokes about them knocking on people's doors, but this is the same thing, and you literally do go knocking on people's doors. And so I'm like, how is this not in people's face, And then it was this whole thing, there's such a fear of hell, and that was the biggest thing. This person could die and burn in hell for eternity, and you could be the one chance that they had. So that was also, you're just kind of that fear is really a big part of it, of course. So went to the summer project, left, and then I was like, okay, the next summer, I was like, I want to do something. I want to go on a mission trip, but I don't want to do an evangelizing. I don't want to evangelize.
Yeah.
I want to do something where I feel like I'm actually contributing and making an impact. I also started studying journalism and international relations at my university, because I was like I said, the thing that inspired me the most about the faith was like Jesus standing up to the harmful religious leaders and standing up for the oppressed and the vulnerable. And so then I was learning. I took a class on genocide and mass population persuasion. It's like, there's still genocide going on today. There's all these things. And so I was like, I want to raise awareness of this. And it was also really interesting, because the more I'd take those classes, and it'd talk about how politics influenced religion. And so a lot of these things I'd like share, and I'd get shut down so much because I was asking, a lot of these things were tied into like the conservative evangelicalism as well. So I'd be like, can you believe people like, say this, and this is what happened in the past? Well, that's because, and there'd be all these reasons of how they were kind of twisting the Bible. And so I'd already kind of seen that a bit, and was really grateful for my education as well. But I was like, I want to do something for God, and I want to combine my passion for human rights and supporting the vulnerable. At the time, I was also really involved in a movement on campus that was raising awareness of child soldiers in Uganda. I helped bring, there was a someone who was coming and speaking to different campuses who was rescued, and he was a survivor. And so I was like, my friend was like, oh, I went with the Teen Mania Ministries. You should go on a mission trip with them, because they really go to these areas. And the way that they advertise this, Jubilee, I don't know how it was for you or what you remember, but it's just the most false advertising I have ever received. Literally, they said, like, the Uganda trip, because of everything that had happened because of the war, and you're having opportunities where you can do like AIDS awareness programs for kids, vulnerable kids, people who are and children who are ex-child soldiers, and programs that could be healing and supportive, and I should have, I look back and I'm like, how ignorant I was. You're also so young that you're like, and you're taught to have this, whole white savior mentality. But I look back and I'm just like, what are a couple of kids gonna go to help, ex-child soldiers in Uganda?
What are you gonna do?
That is the word, that is, and they said these different programs. So anyway, I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. And then literally it was like, okay, Mom, Dad, I'm going to Uganda to help support ex-child soldiers. And yeah, and they're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, well, I'm 18 now, so I can do what I want. They're like, these are totally different conversations that you have with other college kids coming home and what you're worried about. Yeah. But so, because that's really what it was.
So they were they concerned about safety?
Yeah, they were concerned about safety. And and also because after taking some of my journalism courses, I was also becoming so passionate about human rights and vulnerable people. And so I went on the mission trip, and they started. How
was the fundraising going?
Oh my God! Yeah.
Did you have to send off a million letters?
Yes. Okay. I will say though, fundraising for that was felt like no problem, because I felt like I was actually going to go off and make a difference, and I thought it was a good cause. Whereas I already had to raise money for Campus Crusade for Christ, where it's just I'm going to hang out with a bunch of people and evangelize, and sharing that with my non-Christian family, and all the other people and crew are reaching out to the same people for money. And so I ended up, forgot to say this, for the summer project, working the entire time. I worked 5 days a week, and then you do everything in the evening and the weekends. All that money went to them. All the money that I made that summer went to paying off that summer project, because I didn't raise enough support, because people were like, why would we give you
to go to Santa Monica?
To go to Santa Monica to evangelize. Now I'm like, fair play. But back then, it's like, but this is for Jesus.
It's for Jesus. You don't understand. Yeah, but I feel like for you now with the Uganda trip, you're like, no, but this is legit. Like I'm really gonna help child soldiers. So it's a better pitch than Santa Monica. So
yeah, exactly. And so I it starts in Texas, and I just remember going, like, there's the whole, everyone kind of comes together because they're all going off to different countries, and they do, like, I think it's also, right, Teen Mania, when I watched the documentary, or the Shiny Happy People, and it's like the whole kind of, they do the battle cry thing. I'm like, that's totally the, like, kind of worship thing they had before. And it was like, you're all going out, you're doing this, like, battle cry for God, and you're all gonna go out there. Wah! And I just remember, like, why are all these terms so violent? Like, we're supposed to be going out there and helping, like, people in a lot of war-torn countries. Why are you using so much, like, violent language? And my husband, when we watched the
military
documentary,
language.
Yes. And when I watched the documentary, I was like, I was so bothered by that, in that when we all came together, and that was just one day. And my husband's just like, oh yeah, I grew up with that. Oh yeah, that was normal. Everything's like spiritual warfare. Everything's like you're using the sword of the spirit. He was just like, yeah. And my mom and my aunt just like sit and look over.
Oh my gosh.
Just like,
I know, but it's so common in these circles for that to be the norm. Like, everything is so high stakes. We are at war. And like, when I was at Bethel, I just remembered feeling like there's a war in the atmosphere between like the angels and the demons. And it's just, it's very intense. So if you're not like brought up in that, like your husband, I'm sure it's like, what the heck are we doing here right now?
Yeah. And also, Prue, while there were a lot of things when it came to, like, purity culture, when it came to LGBTQ people, when it came to very, very strict, like, theology, it was people like Mark Driscoll, John Piper, these people were like the heroes that you looked up to, which is really conservative evangelical theology. So it was very much in this, but they were also very much, they're not charismatic at all. Again, I think this could differ depending on your campus, but our leaders were like someone told me, like, you thought you saw someone heal? That's the devil. Like, they're even opposite, where they're like pinning against each other. Can also happen. So that to me was also like this whole intense spiritual in that sense. It was more like, oh, people judging you for evangelizing, that spiritual warfare, and it's like, because you're doing your thing for God. It's like, oh, not because I'm intruding on people. So anyway, the whole battle cry thing, I just remember thinking that's like, okay, that's a little wild. Why is this so, like, great music, but very, like, intense. This, it's in my head, I'm like, well, just like these people who care about, people, and we want to go and help the vulnerable.
We're going to go love.
Yeah, we're gonna go love, exactly, and that's for me. Faith is about love. It's like,
did you learn a skit, or what year was this as well?
2000
roughly
10.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I went in 2012, so.
Oh, okay. We just missed each other. Yeah. Well, I did a lot of skits when I was in did the Santa Monica for the project with Campus Crusade. So there were a lot of these, like, skits. And, I'll mention another thing, sorry to keep going back, but looking at the Shiny Happy People documentary with Teen Mania, when they're, like, there's this part of it when they're trying to encourage people to be bold and going out and evangelizing. So they had some people, like, dressed up like they're, dressed up like they're indigenous people, like, really racist. Yeah. Really racist tones throughout it. But Campus Crusade for Christ did that too. Like, on that summer project, everyone, you'd walk around and some of the people were acting as if they were the, like, tribal people in Africa, and you had to give them meat. And then some of the people were the ones where you had to try to get into the country to give them meat. So, like, also, and it was very, and I was standing in the back with my friend, and I'm just like, this is like racist. This isn't very cool. And then my friend, and she's black, and she was like, this is just a thing they do to get people encouraged. And so I was just kind of like, but she grew up in that. And so for her, just imagine, like, that was just so much she grew up with. And so I think she's also since deconstructed and so much trauma. But
I bet.
But yeah, I'm just like, yeah. So those are things too. And these are things I mentioned to him. Like, that's actually really offensive. Like, you shouldn't, like, these are basic things. You shouldn't dress up like another person's culture and mimic them and make up a fake language. Like, people loved that night, and I was just like quite bothered. And so again, then I felt so much of an outsider because I didn't grow up in this, and I'm the new Christian. Now I look back and I'm like, yeah, well, thank God, because I saw a lot of these things like, no, this is not healthy. This is not okay. This is offensive. And
yeah, because you didn't have that indoctrination, so you could see it with fresh eyes. Whereas, I mean, people who are brought up in this, they don't know anything else until they end up going and seeing other people, other cultures, and getting outside of that bubble. And like, the problem is they tell these people who are indoctrinated, well, don't go to the world. The world is going to like lead you astray. So it's like they very much want to keep you in the bubble of indoctrination. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't know anything else. And they're encouraged to not seek anything else out as well.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, it's like the biggest fear of like, especially your family, your community, you know, you lose everything. It's like the biggest fear.
Absolutely.
Too. But yeah, so back to we were all getting ready. I was supposed to go to Uganda. On the way there, the city we were going to fly into, Kampala, was bombed. Because there's been a lot of conflict with Somalia. And also when it got bombed, nobody knew, like, what? Why is it with Somalia? What's Somalia? And I'm just like, I also, since I was studying journalism and international relations and conflict studies at Health, I'm just like, you don't know about the conflict that's been going on in this zone, and we're going to this zone. And so I had to like explain it to the leader and to the groups even, like,
we're like, guys, you didn't do your homework.
Yeah. I'm just like, why are you going if you don't know anything about anything at all? But so then they had to reroute us to South Africa, and
I actually, what's so interesting is somebody whose episode is coming out this week. I don't remember if it was those countries, but it might have been. She had something similar where she did the world race, and she was supposed to, I think, go to Uganda, and it got rerouted as well because of something that had happened. So she also experienced a last minute change on a mission trip due to a huge safety concern. So what did your mom think? Did you call her and tell her? Because I'm sure she was already scared, and then you're like, guess what? The place we were going to go.
Well, they called all the parents. So my mom was also really, like, really worried. And she was like, yeah. And, like, my stories of things that I've done in places I've gone gets, like, crazier. So I'm just like, oh, that little thing. Like, but yeah, my mom was really worried. Also for her, I mean, I was always the shy one that just wanted to, like, get along with everybody when I was younger. So she's also like, what? Like, now you're this wanting to go across the world to do these things. So for her, it was all quite a shock. But yeah. So anyway, I hadn't had, since Crew was very conservative, and I knew that like Teen Mania was more charismatic, and how I heard about it was my roommate who went on a mission trip with them, which is also when I heard about Bethel, by the way, because then people are also like, oh, someone was like, there's also amazing things going on at Bethel, and it's like very similar to Teen Mania, and then some of the people in Crew are like, oh yeah, because God can still heal nowadays, and then there's other people who are like, that stuff that's happening at Bethel is the devil. That's all the devil. And so I'm just kind of like, I don't understand. Like, everyone's all, even within its own, they're all still under the evangelical umbrella, and everyone's, so that's also when I first started hearing about Bethel and the more charismatic movement. And so I went to the mission trip, and we ended up getting rerouted to South Africa. And at first I was like, oh, maybe it's not the organization. It's because they had to last minute, like, change everything. And so now they had to come up with a program, for us, because we weren't meant to go to South Africa. And it was basically going around in the townships in Johannesburg, which I loved. Like, it's a lot of different, there are a lot of people from different countries in Africa that come to South Africa for work or as refugees. So the townships are very very diverse. And we were told, there's also a lot of abuse that happens to, like, children because their parents are working towards the day. So we can do, like, kids' Bible programs and stuff like that. And so, like, there's going to be great things here, a lot of different cultures. Again, it's like all these, most of us white kids coming in to these townships, not knowing the languages, not knowing the culture, and then we're told to just basically go from house to house or tent to tent, and finding ways to help people. And that was like, it felt more like a manipulative tool. Like, can we help do something for you? Because what are we really going to do? We're not builders. Our leader's not a builder. We're not,
Yeah.
What are you really going to do? And so part of me was like, is this just because we got, the program
rerouted? Yeah,
rerouted, but this is still a regular, they still go there. I found out afterwards. It was
I'm sure that is a normal trip. They probably just hijacked the schedule.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're going in there, and I absolutely loved the culture of the township. I loved, like, the music. I loved the dancing I have really beautiful memories with the translators were just amazing, so fun. My translators from Zimbabwe spoke like 9 languages, and I was like, I remember after the trip, I was just like, I think he's meant to be my husband, and I love him, and I think I need to try to study abroad in South Africa. Oh my God. I'm like,
so real. I thought everybody was my husband. I'm like, are you my husband? No.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, and then I could actually really, like, live and be a part of the culture, learn the languages, and actually make an impact, and not just,
because he knows 9 languages.
Yeah, exactly.
That is too funny.
And so, anyway, went from place to place, and the main thing we were told to do is, like, tell about Jesus and to pray for healing, were some of the biggest things. And I don't know what it was like for you in Peru, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That was, it was funny because the leaders, they kind of said straight up, like, we understand that there's different denominations here, so we're not, like, trying to make anybody feel uncomfortable, but some of us do believe in healing. Some of us do believe in this, and, you're encouraged to pray for that if you want to. So they weren't, like, forcing it on, but it was very clear that maybe half of us were charismatic, or maybe a third of us were charismatic, and we were, like, trying to bring heaven to earth, and then the rest were just, like, normal, and here we are, like, trying to do, like, signs and wonders. And I think we were convinced that we healed this man who had one crutch, and I actually have a picture of him. Like, it's so cringe, but he was there, and he had a crutch, and we did our skit, and we prayed for him, and then he gave us his crutch, and he walked away without his crutch. So I mean, I don't know who, but he could walk before. It's not like he couldn't walk before, but we were all on cloud 9, and that just, like, further made us feel like, okay, we need to be praying for healing.
Yeah. it's really interesting for us because I have like there's a couple situations, like one woman you could clearly see like her open wound. Yeah. And we prayed for her, and we prayed and prayed and prayed, and we we're like, this is something we can actually see, you know. And she wasn't healed, and we're like, why, God, are we doing it wrong? Like, we all really believed.
Yeah.
And then you come back at the end of the day, and other groups are like, oh, yeah, someone was sick, and then they were healed and got better. They were laying on their bed ill, and then they stood up, and I'm like, and you hear the stories, you're like, what was it? Were they amazed? They're like, no, they were just kind of like, okay. Like, and then we're like, what? Why were they not jumping off the wall? And they're like, it's because things like this, like spirituality is so much more accepted, you know, in countries like South Africa. So for them, it's probably not as, you know, like they believe things like this can happen. And so it happens. And I'm like, it probably is because the person was like, if you're not going to be excited when actually you're in like a life-threatening situation and then you stand up, you're like, I'm good now, you guys can leave. It's well,
it sounds like maybe they stood up so that y'all would think that they're healed so that you would leave, because that happens so often where people will say, no, I feel better, especially if you're not giving up. Or yeah, like at Bethel they would tell you don't give up, so you would pray like 5 or 6 times, and then people are so uncomfortable that they're like, no, I feel better, you know. But it explains why they're not so excited because it's not actually healing.
Yes, exactly. And I saw that as well too. Like there was somebody who was just like, you know, they'd be like, oh yeah, I've been having pain in my arm, and then you pray, and then you keep praying, and we're there for like 20 minutes, and so they're like, oh yeah, it's better. Like, just leave me alone. Or this woman, we kept going back to the day, and then she was just kind of like, looks at you like, oh God, they're back. So yeah, definitely. And I also, for me, I had a hard thing because I actually, like there was a young woman that I really just connected with that was having difficulties at home that I could just really relate to. And then I was just like, are these people even going to be followed up with? How are you really going to, like, you know, if there's going to be any care, their situations are so hard. And my translator, was like, he was just like, I will come back and follow up with her and like make sure she continues to like go to school and like this and this. So it was like, but that wasn't that's a moment that stood out, but it wasn't like a conversion, and it wasn't a like healing thing. But we also, there were people who were like, I got one guy was limping, and he was like, my knee hurts, and we prayed over him, and then he was like, are you witches? And then someone was like, no, we're so much better, or like something better. It's like Jesus that healed you. The source is
better. Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, oh, and like these are the type of stories too you're really encouraged to like hype up. You know, you really hype these stories up, what you don't see or what doesn't happen. It's just kind of like, you know, you need to share these beautiful things that God is doing, because like that's like our whole point, is to show people of God's goodness. So like go back and share all these stories, you know, and like you're really like, it's kind of that have the faith, be the one, you know, to like share about what you saw and not what you didn't see. But also now that I look back, there's something that is like so damaging. And I didn't like it. It wasn't even until my child now has a disability. He has cerebral palsy on one side of his body, my youngest. And I was not aware of like disabilities or cerebral palsy or anything like that. And there was a little girl, I think about 4 years old. And she had like ties on her arms and her wrists. And they were like, oh, it's because she went to the village healer to try to help her to walk because she can't walk. And the parents don't know why. So they're trying to break whatever curse, because in their minds, it's all curses. It's all, you know. And so it's like, and then the person was like, this is evil. This is like not of God. This is witchcraft, and it's not going to heal her. You need to cut these off, and you need to not go back to that person because it's witchcraft. now as a journalist, I know that more people in especially Africa, Asia, and Latin America are killed from being accused of witchcraft, kicked out of their villages, abused, all sorts of things because of not only, but a main reason is charismatic evangelical missions and churches sharing this rhetoric, and it becomes dangerous for people. So one, even just doing that and sharing that that was bad and evil and witchcraft, you don't know what this person who, when they have no medical support or care, these people are living in dire poverty, and the only people they have to help them are natural medicine people, which I mean, it is also like it was midwives and natural healers using plants because there weren't doctors when women were then accused of witches during the witch trials. And we're doing the same exact thing as evangelical missionaries, putting it onto these other cultures, vulnerable cultures, and then they're picking that up, saying it's witchcraft, and then so much abuse is happening. And so just even knowing that is just like really sad. But then this girl, so she, they cut everything off and they prayed. They made a huge thing. It brought everyone around the village. People were standing around, and I'm sitting here watching this, and they're like, now pray and she's gonna walk. Pray and she's gonna walk. If you just have the faith, if this girl trusts, right, this little girl. And so she like gets up and she's wobbling, and she's like, she is walking, but it's really hard, and you could tell she's exhausted. And then she comes down, and they're like, she walked, she walked, she walked. And the people are kind of like, like, okay. And some people are like,
they're probably like,
she
well,
walked.
we've seen her do that before, you know, because
probably
they're actually on the
family.
ground, so they know, you know.
Yes, and because disabilities aren't talked about, I'm like, imagine if this was a group of people that was coming to raise awareness of like not excluding people. What if we were educated on people with disabilities? What if we were talking about like, you know, not ways to end like harm and oppression that's already been projected onto them, but there's no knowledge of any of this. And so she's wobbling, and they're like, we're going to come every day and keep praying and keep having the faith because she will walk. And then I remember, and this was a story that I have cried about many times since having my my second child, because this was a story that I would come back and share and be like, and apparently she couldn't walk, and they prayed and she was able to walk. And now I know it's because she has cerebral palsy. She has diplegia, which is cerebral palsy in your legs. People with cerebral palsy can walk. Majority of people with cerebral palsy can walk. My son can walk. My son is starting to run. Like, there's weakness in the body. And so, and it's also exhausting. And when it's in both your legs and you're so little, just having them walk and without even support and guidance and anything is also really, could not be safe too, with a child falling or instability in the hips and things like that. But so I'm just kind of like, and now I feel like I've told a lot of people actually that from like crew when I came back from that trip, and I was like, this story that I was like made me believe in miracles was a lie, was like not true. And yeah, it just really breaks my heart also because with that little girl and having cerebral palsy, and it's like a disability is not an evil witchcraft bad thing. It is not a, you know, something to pray away. And people trying to pray away my son's disability has been some of the most damaging things for our family. And I just like, yeah, I still, as a mom, thinking about that other mom as that little girl and just not knowing because we were ignorant to disabilities and we were brought there. I'm like, people are cast out for having disabilities. People are killed for having disabilities. If she didn't have enough faith or because it was witchcraft, because they went to the witch healer, like we said, that's endangering the people that were there. But nobody from that mission group, nobody from these big organizations realize the damage they're causing when they are doing this on these trips. And I look at that one situation and how vulnerable it is for the girl and for that person who tried to help them with natural medicine and like tension points, you know. which probably like there are definitely like different areas of therapy and things that can help with cerebral palsy, but trying to pray away people's disability is just so damaging.
And it's so common in these circles. Like, I look back now and I not just cringe, I feel so uncomfortable just even thinking about it, because I don't share it too much, but I'm actually an ATP, which is somebody who fits people for custom power chairs and wheelchairs. So I work with people who have disabilities every day, and it's hard to look back now and realize how horrible it was for everybody who lived in Reading. Because, if you're in a wheelchair and you're in Walmart, you are being approached by Bethel students 24/7. Like, they literally would train you, go out in public, find somebody who looks disabled and try to like pray their disability away. And it's just so harmful for these people to feel like they're projects and to be made to feel like there's something wrong with them. And yeah, my heart breaks for that little girl, because yes, I'm sure she could walk a few feet, but I'm sure it also caused her pain. Also, you have to think about the pressure, and then you have to think about how everybody was saying, you will be healed, you will be healed. And she used to go to bed at night wondering why God didn't heal her, after these white missionaries told her that she was going to be healed. Like, does God not love me? Why did God not do that? Am I cursed? Was it witchcraft that we did the thing? Did God decide to not heal me because of that? And it's so harmful. But it's just so common in these circles. They don't think about those sorts of things.
No, exactly. And the damage that's being done, the like generational trauma and damage that is being done, and people don't realize the connection between like colonialism and evangelicalism and missionaries. And it's so, I think that's what's also really sad, and especially with the whole spiritual warfare aspect, the charismatic movement is so much part of that. So I have Native American ancestry, and my grandpa is Cherokee. And I was told when I went through a booklet, a charismatic booklet coming back of like, praying through things that are hard, because I had anxiety, fear of hell, fear of my family members going to hell. And so maybe I'm having this, and maybe and all this stuff that's happening in my family is because of generational curses. And then asked you if you have indigenous background and ancestry to pray, because that was pagan and not of God. And so literally even just like that of being like, that's bad. And now, and then instead of something
that's horrific.
To be like, yes, yeah, exactly. And so, it was actually something until I was like thinking and writing down the story. I'm like, that's like something that popped up that just goes so deep. It's like, my entire family's background, like all the trauma and everything that we have endured is because of our Native American heritage. And I really believe that. Really sad. But so I came back from the trip and didn't like the evangelism part again, and I didn't like, there were a lot of things, and I talked to the leaders about things. I'm always the problem person, I feel like, because I
was a problem too, and I feel like the problem people end up deconstructing.
100%. Well, one thing that they would do, they'd use the South African flag to share the gospel. And what they would do is have all the different colors. I don't know if you've seen the South African flag, which is very powerful, like especially when apartheid ended. The story of the flag is just something that people put all the colors in intentionally as a part of their story. And what they did is there's white and black in the flag, and the black represents the people. And they'd have the picture of the flag, and they'd be like, so all these colors, let's say it represents something. The white represents God and light and goodness, and black represents bad and sin. And they did that on a microphone. And I walked up to him and I was just like, I like afterwards, he put the microphone down. I walked straight up to him and I was like, what you just said is basically in people's eyes of being like, oh, white people, missionaries, good, black, bad. Like, that's what you're saying. Like, that, you know, you're making it like
that represents them because you know the history and it feels like nobody did any research at all on the culture.
Yes. And even if you didn't, to say, like, to make out this thing of like black symbolizes bad and white symbolizes good, like, how do you not, I'm like, how do you not realize what's coming out of your mouth? And then he was just like, when I did say that, I am like, at least he was like, yeah, I never thought about it that way. That's actually a really good point. And so he like told everyone to not do that anymore. And so I'm just but these type of things where it's like, so, yeah, I don't know.
Well, hey, at least you brought some good change there. Maybe people stopped doing that after you told them. God, yeah, probably only for a couple days, but still. Oh,
but wow. So we came back, and that really was my plan. I was just like, oh, South Africa, and I had a really hard time, like I said, with the group. I felt like there was so much where I just was kind of like, really that white and black picture that I made and what they said just felt like that kind of undertone of what I really was like, I don't want to be a part of that again, and I didn't want to join. I actually tried to like contact the organization to be like, there were a lot of things where I feel like this is not helping, this is actually harmful, even before I really decolonized my faith. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want that, but I loved South Africa. I loved like South African culture. I loved like, I started picking up little bits of the Zulu language. And I was like, I still was just kind of like, I think that's the man I'm meant to marry. So
my husband
from Zimbabwe speaking 9 languages. And so I was like, I'm going to study abroad in South Africa. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go back. And he and I are going to follow up with the people who like, that I really, you know, felt like kindred spirits the woman who was like, felt like a little sister to me. And so I was like, I'm going to go study abroad there. And the program got closed because of there was a lot more violence that broke out in South Africa, of course. And the university became like less safe, and there were some incidences. They didn't explain what. And the guy who was running the program for South Africa was like, I also run the one for India. So if you like different, it seems like you just really love like different cultures, different countries, different, you know, languages that you could focus on, and programs where you could really have like kind of like I could focus on women's issues and have social work projects that would still follow under my international relations. And so he's like, India seems like it'd be a really good fit for you. And so I was like, is this it? Like, God, like, is it supposed to be, you know, should I be going to India? And then I was like, but I don't want to be the only other Christian, because I was also told that so much, you know, oh, it's so easy to get like led astray, and there's spiritual warfare. And Cru's sense of spiritual warfare is also like leading you astray from, you know, not like this demons in the closet, like the charismatic part of Christianity.
Not so literal.
But more like it's going to lead you astray, and, you know, you might get tempted to, for other religions or not being Christian and so I was like, I want to make sure there's at least one other Christian, and I prayed about it, and then I was like, it's the only way I could be part of the program is if like there's another Christian. And then towards the end, where you had to say if you're going or yes, there was one other person who was Christian who came up, who was lovely. Like, she's a fantastic person, and she also has a heart of gold, and what attracted her about her faith is the same thing as me, still being evangelical, but also not someone like, she's not about just converting in this fear of hell. She really just like cares about people. And so, lovely person. But so I ended up studying abroad, and it was a Catholic university actually, which is also so funny because, as evangelicals, you're told Catholics are like, it's interesting, like either, they're not on fire enough, or it's all about rules, or it's like, oh, they pray to Mary and the saints, and that's like idol worship, and so that's not Christianity at all.
That's what I was told.
Yes. A lot of Campus Crusaders go to countries where people are like, it's just very Catholic, and they're told to convert people to evangelicalism, basically. Well, they'd say to just
see, we
Jesus
did that in Peru, because I remember Peru, I remember there were so many Catholic churches, and it was kind of like we still felt we needed to convert them to our brand of Christianity, because growing up, I was told that Catholics focus too much on works, that they like don't really get the gospel as well as we do, and also that they pray to Mary, and that is just horrible behavior, So, it's not that I thought Catholics were saved. I thought that they were going to heaven. I just thought that they were completely missing the mark, really.
Yeah.
Or maybe not completely missing the mark. Maybe that's a little too far, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also, and that's what I'd have a hard time with. I'm like, you're raising all this money to go evangelize on a campus in a country where they're Catholic, and they're like, it's a very, like, some of the most low-income households and poverty-stricken countries, and you're raising all this tons of money to go to a campus, live in a nice place, and then go to the beach. Like, that was one of the hardest things for me with Cru, is because I'm like, people are dying.
We're going to pause here on part 1 of Emily's story, but don't worry, part 2 is already up for you guys to go and listen to. And I wanted to remind you guys that I have another podcast called the Overshare Hour, and I host that one with my best friend, Mackenzie. She did a couple episodes here on Healedish about her time at the International House of Prayer, and it was absolutely insane. So on the Overshare Hour, we give all sorts of advice. So if you guys want to go check that out, that would mean a lot to me. And you can also submit any of your questions that you might have, and we will give you our advice. So with all of that being said, I will see you over there for part 2.